Hello, my name is Benji and welcome to Dice vs Cards. Today we go back to Arkham Horror, the card game. We've now done series focusing on the Guardian and Seeker classes, but today we go from blue to yellow to green and bring you some videos focusing on those wheeler-dealer miscreants with green borders. What better way to start than with a class toolkit, detailing what cards you should strongly consider bringing with your rogue wherever you go. We'll try and have you covered with all the different slot choices and anything that's left over. Now, whereas most Guardians were predisposed to combat and Seekers with clues, Rogues are the first class we'll talk about in this type of video that can put their hand to anything, but that usually comes at a cost. Having higher resource requirements on average than the other classes, and with a number of their cards being high risk, high reward, there's a lot of flexibility in the way they can play. It is true that they will often have a higher agility than most, so on the one hand they prefer fleet of foot over going toe to toe, but it's not always quite what it seems when it comes to the rogue class. Starting with the assets of the in your hands variety, there isn't a great deal to write home about in the weapon category. The core set gave us the most vanilla, lukewarm piece of metal ever printed in the 41 Derringer, but then you're not necessarily a shoot-centric class, so beggars can't always be choosers. The Mauser C96, despite having her horrific name, is only marginally better and situationally so. You really need an investigator with a base combat of 4 to make it work reliably, and the succeed by 2 mechanism that's everywhere on green borders makes this clunky as all get out. But wait, there is a workaround. Unfortunately it's not a rogue card. Well, to be honest, it is in all but colour. I'm of course talking about the ornate bow. Yes, it's painfully slow and you can't start a campaign with it at a cost of 3 XP, though it guarantees the plus combat and plus damage you need. And you can also combo it quite nicely with haste to negate its native 1 action for the price of 2 downside. Moving to the non-hand slots, we have another core set staple, Lone Wolf. An absolute must for most investigators in solo, and only nominally less so in multiplayer. You just can't argue with double the each turn economy, especially when Rogue is probably the most resource intensive class. Outside of that, it's another 2 higher level cards that are a hard recommend. Firstly, the gold pocket watch is so versatile it's difficult to underestimate its usefulness. How many games have you played where you wish you had just one more turn, or needed a teensy bit of breathing room to rest or get into position? Finally, the skeleton key absolutely destroys high value shroud locations and scales brilliantly to higher player counts, almost completely nullifying the most challenging location in play. Then it's the allies' turn to shine, and there's one particular guy that looms large in the rogue class, and that is of course Leo DeLuca, one of the best there ever was. Giving you a free action a turn or a 33% increase in action economy is no mean feat, and when upgraded it's a turn 1 play that sets you up for the rest of the game. The problem with Leo is that he's basically a mandatory, and you can normally only bring 1 buddy to town. Thank the heavens then for charisma that allows you to bring a +1/+1. Yep, we'll go with that. 2 feisty females make a short list of candidates for this slot. Delilah O'Rourke and Lola Santiago both do some good shizzle at the cost of XP, and look like each half of the same side of the coin, one focusing on smashing face and the other at gathering clues. Identify your need and pick your poison, as there's probably not room for both. What about a permanent asset or 2 before we move to event land? Well, another day, another dollar makes turn 1 a beautiful thing to behold. Those that underestimate the effectiveness of a powerful turn 1 are probably losing more games than they should, and so starting with 7 opens up so much in the way of possibilities, it shouldn't really require much more information than that. Streetwise is another real consideration at level 0, as it's a straight up better card than Hard Knocks, but it really knocks it out of the park with this upgraded version, costing 3 base XP or 6 with taboo rules. It's not just that it gives you 3 skill for $2, it's that it's permanent and starts in play, so I highly recommend it. So as promised, events, and we have quite a few to peruse. That's because rogues quite like them, proving that the core set still has some chops. Both backstab and elusive are solid choices. I think of the former as a vanilla dynamite blast. 3 damage is that awkward spot, and with quite a few minions rocking just that number, we have a killer card on our hands. And elusive is great predominantly because it's fast. Paying 2 to Scarper to a connecting location doesn't necessarily help you against hunter enemies, but it's got game enough to be a consideration for sure. In much the same vein, think On Your Feet allows you to get out of dodge when a big fugly spawns on your face, and at an acceptable cost as well. Then you've got an axis of awesome in the form of Cheap Shot, Intel Report and Narrow Escape, with the former being a bit more playable in multiplayer and a lot more kind to teammates than some rogue cards. Its fluff could have said, "Yeah mate, I've set this one up for you, and no, I don't really recommend comboing this with Sneak Attack," but you can't argue with the synergy. Intel Report is just a giggity card. Whilst it might not be fast, is splash damn amazing, and conversely more so in solo than multiplayer. But to be fair, this is all round goodness so long as you're flush with cash. But remember, you're playing a rogue, right? Narrow Escape says to hell with the core rules, I'm going to do this thing whether you like it or not. And it gives you +2 to whatever the Tiffany Hell skill check you wanna. And it costs $0. Need I say more? So here we are, almost at the end of the road, where we look at skill choices. And to be fair, there is a decent selection available. Most notably the now forbidden, as in banned, Double or Nothing. One assumes it's pretty powerful because so far, if you're playing with a taboo list, it's the only card that's been shut out of the game. Now don't get me wrong, this is still a gamble card, just like a number of other strong rogue cards, but its ceiling was so high, FFG basically said to hell with it, we're not balancing around it, it's gone. Now, if you're not playing taboo though, give it a whirl. See how it works with any number of combos in a given game. We then have quick thinking, and watch this. With the former, part of the better, you win by 2 or more club, but the upside is sweet as, and the fact that it's contributing a wide icon is just gravy. The latter, on the other hand, needs to be played at the right time, but combining an emergency cache into a skill check sounds like a fair gambit to me. So what about those second tier cards? Or ones that I don't rate that highly as others? Pickpocketing, Easy Mark and Hot Streak, all for varying reasons don't automatically make my rogue decks. With the former, it's because it's just straight up uninspiring and feels like sideways motion more than it does forward motion. Easy Mark is a card I would think I would love, but with a myriad combo like nature, it just doesn't give you enough return on investment for an action. And then the level 2 Hot Streak is a good card, and the level 4 is a great card, but its problem is it's more about where it fits in your upgrade path, more than it being any kind of slight on its quality. 3 more honourable mentions before we go, in the form of Small Favour, Swift Reflexes and Well Connected. Again, with the former, the fact that it says non-elite is a problem for me, and the damage output is not as comparably high as other cards available. Swift Reflexes is another card I should be expected to like. Action Economy Bench, what's your problem? My problem is simple, I don't want to pay 2 for a free action and it be a one-off in my deck. And my main problem with well connected is how arbitrary it is. If I've got 4 or 9 resources, I'm pulling that sad panda face until I start to twitch. One thing's for sure, all 6 of these are to varying degrees good cards, and will be situationally better or worse with different investigators. So there you have it, a semi-exhaustive look at all the cards you might want to consider when building your rogue deck. Obviously, as I've just mentioned, each investigator will lend itself and complement different cards to varying degrees. And while you're here, you also might want to check out our previous videos to consider what off-class and neutral cards to take. But for now, I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you next time.